And welcome back, and it is the 8th of May, high plus 5 a day, and let's just go straight to the first one. Right, the events A and B are mutually exclusive. Now, especially if you do A-level maths, by the way, this gets much worse in terms of terminology, so it's worth being really clear what this means. So this means that the classic example is if I'm picking some socks from a drawer, I can either pick some black socks or I can pick some red socks. I can't pick black socks and red socks at the same time. In other words, there's no way of having the two things happening. So therefore, from a Venn diagram perspective, you could think of it this way as well, is I can't have the black socks and the red socks happening at the same time. In other words, the probability that both things happening is going to be 0. Next question. Write in the form A root B where A and B are integers to be found. Okay, so this is just a standard. Do you know how to rationalise the denominator? Now, the rule is if you have a plus or a minus on the bottom, you have to do the negative of that. In this case, it's just a surd. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by that surd, which is going to give me 30 root 6 over root 6 times root 6 is 6. Simplify the 30 and the 6 to 5, and that gives me 5 root 6. So far today, not too bad, is it? Next question. Calculate an estimate of the median. Okay, here we go again. So we've had a few of these recently. So the first thing, these numbers are not very nice, are they? So the first thing I need to do is stop the screen from moving. There we go. So the first thing I need to do is add all these up. And that gives me 1060 on my calculator. So I'm going to do that again because I'm kind of presuming that might be 1,000. So try it again. And I do actually get 1060 again. So strange number, but it is what it is. Okay, fine. And then you remember now, the rule is if it's continuous data, because I don't know where the data is within this, I don't add 1. Whereas if I'm finding the median of discrete data, I add 1. In other words, I need the 1060th divided by 2, which is the 530th data point. In order to work out slightly better where that is, I'm going to use a cumulative frequency. So this is the way that I tend to do it. So I'm going to zoom in because it's slightly easier to see what I'm doing. So there's 0 people here, and this goes up to 135. Then 135 plus 244 is 379. So I haven't got to the 530th person yet. So I'm going to get it in the next one, aren't I? So add 555, which gives me 934. So the 530th person is going to lie within there. Then think about all these people. I don't even know what I'm measuring, do I? I'm measuring time. So think about all these times in order from smallest all the way to the largest. The 530th person, thing, time, whatever it is I'm measuring, is going to be, it's going to be about a third of the way along. But I need to be a bit more precise than that. So I'm going to do 530, which is the person I want, minus 379, which is the person at the start of that range. In other words, I'm taking this number here. I'm going to divide by how many people there are in that class itself, which is 555. Then I'm going to multiply by the width of the class, which is 10. And then I'm going to add on, and let's just check the class again. So it's this one here. I'm going to add on the start of the class, which is 20. Now, that looks complicated, especially if this is the first video you've watched. But all I'm doing is working out the fraction of the way along the class I'm going. I'm multiplying that by the size of the class, or the difference between the class values, and then I'm adding on the start of the class. So calculator out, and that gives me 22 point, and it says 720, so it's actually recurring, but I'm just going to write 22.7 and write that to 1 decimal place. I've shown my calculation, I've shown my answer. That should be fine, not a problem. It doesn't say anywhere in the question how many decimal places, so more than sufficient. Okay, next question, and I'm pausing because this looks like a terrible 3D trigonometry one. Right, let's take this carefully. So the diagram shows a cuboid and a pyramid. The apex of the pyramid is directly above, which in other words means it's just right, so you can assume it's in the middle. Calculate the size of MDI. So M goes to the bottom, D goes to this corner here, and I want, what do I want? I want the size of the angle M to D to I, in other words to the top. Okay, now it's actually not too bad this, I think, because it's given me the height. So if we think about the triangle that I need, so there's my I, always do this in terms of 2D triangles, there's my M and there's my D. I can see already from the diagram that my height is 7. I want this angle here, so really I just need the length M to D. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to look at the triangle on the floor, which is the triangle C to A to D. And I know from the diagram that's 14 and that's 11, which means that I know that this length here is the square root of 14 squared plus 11 squared, which is root 317. So it's not a nice number. Now, if, as I said right at the start, if m is in the middle, well, that means m to d, which you'll remember is the thing that I want above, is going to be half of this. So it's going to be 307 over 2. Now, you'll notice I'm leaving everything as an exact value, just makes it slightly more precise. But if you want to use rounded numbers, that's fine. Just lots of decimal places, make it safe. So I now know what m to d is, which means that I know that the angle that I want, I'm going to call it theta. So theta is going to be tan minus 1 of the opposite, which is 7, divided by adjacent, which is root 307 over 2. Put that in my calculator and I get 38.2 degrees. And that's it today. I have to say, it looked like it could be quite awful today, especially that last question, but not too bad at all, right? Hopefully you found those okay. I think possibly the first question's the hardest. If you don't remember your terminology, that 3D trig question, not too bad. Either way, do let me know how it went for you. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.